phone since I forgot my papers, but would it be possible, I guess I should make more of a comment than a question. I think we should have a policy or, you know, pre-approved purchase order so we can immediately tow emergency vehicles, like when they go out of service, so there's not a delay. And then that way they could be, you know, if it's on a Friday night, like it seems like, you know, every time something bad happens, it's usually on a Friday night, you know, in the beginning of a weekend or a holiday weekend or something like that. So, and I know it's kind of inconvenient to have a emergency meeting in the middle of the night to do emergency repairs to these vehicles, but they are obviously very important. And then usually, you know, Murphy's Law kicks in whenever we, you know, have a fire truck or an ambulance out of service. Then we get more runs, and we, you know, people are not getting the quick service that they should be getting when that happens. And you know, I know we've been dealing with these vehicles for a while. That they have, you know, you know, some sort of mechanical issues that seem to keep coming up.
Let me ask you a nickel on that.
Sure.
If we had an open PO to say to Jay's, the only problem was Jay's couldn't fix the medic. That's why he had to take it to Matthews.
Okay.
He told me on the phone they couldn't fix it.
Well,
so my question is, we could have it towed and have it looked at, but we may have to have it towed. And I'm just thinking medic, you know.
But it could break down on the road somewhere.
Right, that's a good point.
I mean, I'm just trying to get
just speed things up.
Right, logistics worked out, and so there's not a policy violation if somebody like me who's in charge that day decides that, okay, we have a fire truck that's broke down the middle of the road, we should have it towed. Yeah.
I'd recommend doing an open PO to Jay's Towing for $1,000.
You know,
that would be enough to get it, because like you said, if something breaks down on the road, you gotta get it off the road.
Right, and I think there's a little bit of confusion because of some of what's in the minutes during a previous meeting. I think it was in February this year. It's like basically absolutely no purchases without purchase order type of thing, and we don't want to hang ourselves. But go ahead. You have something? Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I don't mind the back and forth. Let's see. So I think we're getting 109 looked at a spring shop, so I'll take that off the list. Let's see. Most of this has to do with the importance of being able to get these vehicles fixed quick, just because of Newark staffing levels, and most of the time when we call for help, surrounding departments, you can only, you know, if it's during the day, their volunteers are working just like ours are, and we only usually get their paid staff, which could be one truck usually. And if we need multiple trucks, then we can't rely on one other department, you know, to provide those other trucks. So anyway, that's the main stuff I want to talk about. It seems like sometimes what I view to be very important, like having both of the medics in service, you know, sometimes we take a long time deciding what to do or bounce around from place to place trying to get things fixed. I know sometimes that's necessary to do that, but
like I said, Jay's, they came out that Monday and looked at it, and he called me and said they couldn't fix it when they were to tow it. I told him to take it to Matthews, and the Matthews looked at it pretty quick, ordered the parts on Tuesday, and we got it Wednesday. So,
you know, I think we could look at doing a draft directive or policy or whatever for, like, okay, the medics are Fords, so we're going to tow them if it's an emergency, right to the Ford dealership. Obviously, they can fix it. And then the fire trucks maybe to whoever we want to pick for the big truck. That's what I had. So appreciate the time.
Thank you.
thanks, Dave.
Sarah?
This has to do with the medics. Why is it okay to have a pickup truck fixed as an emergency for the street department, but it's not an emergency to have a medic fixed?
It was an emergency, and actually, sir, it got fixed quicker than the truck did.
Delvin, did he
did.
tell you it wasn't an emergency?
I never talked to Delvin. I talked to Kyle Stott.
Kyle Stotts, and
Yeah.
it was said by Kyle that it was not an emergency, that we had another medic.
The other medic was in service. I asked Kyle, and Kyle said yes. And that's why we waited till Monday and had it towed.
But why was it an emergency to have a pickup truck fixed?
Actually, the pickup truck, they took it and had quotes before I even approved having the pickup truck fixed.
And then, why after 35 years of the fire association having food at the fire department for Martin yard sales, did they have to get $1 million insurance policy for one day and sign a lease agreement?
Did you
After
see-
35 years.
Did you see the news recently this year about the botulism at the church in Lancaster where a woman actually died from eating at a potluck there? And because of that, the insurance company and the prosecutor's office told us that's what we needed to do.
I have first start off with a question for Rick. Over the last 9 months as we went through this, whatever we've been going through, you've said that I think your wording was that you've been very vocal about, we did not hire Mr. Little to go after any individuals. Do you still think that's true?
It's comments only. This is for comments only.
Okay. Well, you did say it, and you said it, I mean, you were very flamboyant on how you said it. So it was said, and we're doing, as we go through the records search here, I read that from our prosecutor, Mr. Little was consulted for the purposes of investigating whether the removal proceedings were warranted against one or more of the Township Fire Department personnel. Everybody that was at the meeting has known that you have said that. Now the prosecutor is saying it wasn't true. So the question is, not questioning your integrity, but do you think the prosecutor is actually lying about this?
I don't think any questions and answers about the investigation. Right.
Because the investigation's still open.
Well, yeah, but we have a comment here, a comment that was made.
Okay.
Okay, well anyways, the prosecutor said that was the reason for hiring Mr. Little, and you have said over and over again that it wasn't the reason, it was just a general investigation and nobody really knows what it's about. The second question I have is along those same lines, we now have Mr. Little, we're paying him $55 an hour, and he's going to be investigating, dragging our fire department, our volunteer fire department, he's going to be dragging them down to the prosecutor's office and asking them questions. These people that devote more to this township than anybody in this room. And he's going to be questioning and intimidating these young people that are volunteering their lives to do this. As he does this, you know, we come back to the question that who really hired Mr. Little, and of course the resolutions and the contracts and the paychecks and the minutes say that you guys hired him when you couldn't. And then I'm reading through this, and I read that the prosecutor states that although he didn't hire him, he doesn't say he did, he said he always intended to hire him. So my question is, I guess I just got a speeding ticket last week. And when I go before the judge, I'm gonna say, I always intended to go the right speed limit, but I just didn't. Does that make it that I didn't speed? Because the bottom line is, the prosecutor didn't hire Mr. Little. Everybody in the room knows he didn't. You guys know he didn't. We know he didn't. Just because he says he did, or he didn't, but he intended to, doesn't make it any more legal than it is. And I guess one last statement. Melissa's asked for records requests for resolutions. The resolutions were made in April and May, and we refused to give her the resolutions. Are we permitted to do that, or are we not allowed to answer that question?
I'm not aware that we refused to give her any.
I think it's a question probably for Mark.
We answered with a letter. That's all I can say, and that was advice from the
So
prosecutor.
if we ask for resolutions that they come before the trustees, we're no longer allowed to get resolution copies of them?
If it's not overly broad request.
It wasn't overly broad, I was very specific.
That's all I have to say.
I was very specific in what I asked for. 3 meetings of documents, that's it. It wasn't 7 years. Overbroad is a far shot.
And as of 3:30 today, the prosecutor's office hasn't responded to that for us, so.
So you actually did know about it.
I did get your email.
Thank you.
Just lied.
You gotta stop lying.
I'm not lying, Melissa.
Okay.
So when you submit your public records request, who do you submit them to?
I submitted them to the trustees.
Each of us as individuals or to the whole board or how?
I submitted it to Karen Barger, Rick Warmer, and Jody German.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bailey? Delvin?
Would the board be willing to entertain us with some answers? Some of these questions that I have?
This is comments?
So that's a no, awesome. Are we going by the township handbook as employees? Would the board be willing to answer that question?
I don't know what your specific question is about the handbook.
Are we going, am I under the obligation to go by what's in our handbook?
Are you a township employee?
Yes.
Okay.
So are you guys going off of that handbook
What's
as
specific
my
there?
accountability and stuff like that? Or am I being held accountable for what's in that handbook? Is it being enforced?
I guess I need to have more specifics about that.
Okay,
I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
let's go more
Well,
specific with
not
pay and
now.
wages.
This is comments from citizens.
Okay, this is part of my thing. With pay and wages, the board, in my guidelines, it says the board of trustees shall specify a format of time sheets to ensure proper documentation of hours worked by all employees. Where is the specific guidelines for Mark on his, time sheet?
I do that now, Bill.
Does,
So he's writing down everything we have to write down.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Now, for paid employees for holiday pay, Chief Decker's been asking for the fire department part-time staff to get paid time and a half. The road crew, if they're called in, they get time and a half. Actually, it says 2 times regular pay. By the Fair Labor Standard Act that was signed by the Constitution, by the representatives, part-time employees are supposed to be held to the same standard. So we should be getting time and a half to work on holidays by the Fair Labor Standard Act.
Take a look at it, though.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Mark. Also, with this so-called, I can't even call it an investigation because you guys say you don't even know what's being investigated. But per our township guidelines, if an accusation is made towards an employee, you guys are supposed to contact the employees and let them know what's going on. So we can tell our side without this big investigation. Per the guidelines that you guys set for the employees, that is yet to be done. Why is that?
I'm not going to answer questions about that.
Awesome. That's what I kind of figured.
Yep.
Going back to schools, you guys approved schools in January, but didn't inform the firefighters that they were improved, so then they couldn't go to school. Mark comes along and says, we're not going to pay for schools. Why did we pay for schools in January, but now we're not paying for schools? Don't even answer, because I know you're not going to say anything.
just go ahead and finish your comment.
Also, it was told by a trustee that you guys paid for all my schools. I want to see those pay stubs that my schools were paid for. A trustee that's not here said that you guys paid for my schools.
Well, we're not gonna get into.
I want to,
what
I'm
needs to be-
requesting those pay stubs because you guys paid for 0 on my schools. Also, personnel files. The prosecutor now has my personnel file. What is the township doing to make sure my information is secure? And all these other firefighters' information is secure. What are you guys doing to protect that? You guys doing anything to protect it?
It's locked up at the prosecutor's office.
But, and nothing ever gets broken into at the prosecutor's office? It doesn't come up missing? I've turned in, pay stubs or my checking account and we still don't have direct deposit. Also, PIN numbers for paid staff. When are we getting PIN numbers so we can go get fuel? There's, what, 4 or 5
Dalvin,
officers?
the other question I have on that, we do not even get receipts from when we are getting the fuel now.
Is that a policy?
Yes, it is. We get receipts. We haven't
Okay.
received them.
Okay,
if we-
so-
Dalvin, please let me finish. If we want to give out more PIN numbers, we need to continue, we need to start turning in receipts.
Okay, so what happens when I'm the only paid employee on staff and we have a medic that is at a quarter tank of fuel? How am I I'm on paid staff, I'm there, I could go get fuel, but I don't have a PIN number because it's not been issued to me.
Okay.
I mean, isn't that an important thing that needs to be done? Because if we have a medic that's, considering we only have one medic now, because the other one's broke, we have a medic that we can't make the run.
We gotta keep fuel in it, so.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good for right now.
Thanks, Dalvin.
Thank you. Any correspondence?
I don't have any.
I came, it would have to be a walk. It would definitely have to be a walk. I can't see me running.
See me running from the parking lot to the start.
Yeah.
You were right on top of it.
Oh,
You were right on top of it.
From the health department. Yep.
yeah, yeah. There we go.
That's probably that one.
And would you note the record, Nancy, that we did receive another,
What's up? Say,
postcard
we're gonna do that. Wait,
from the fire department?
if you weren't, I'm still throwing this.
Okay, just so you. Thank you. Oh, sure. Yes, right.
Mark, do you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Rick, do you have anything else?
Not at this time.
Stacy, do you have anything else? Okay, the next regular meeting will be July 7th at 4:30 PM. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.